I'd like to begin today's video by reading a comment that we received in one of our recent episodes. Hi Jack, love your work. My name is Peter and I work as a marine biologist and I have a passion for four-door German performance cars. Sounds real. I'm in the market for an electric car and I appreciate that this is a long shot, but I'm wondering if you happen to know of any EVs that resemble my favourite car, the early Porsche Panamera, but also look a bit like my favourite sea creature, the beluga whale. Keep up the great work. Sincerely, Peter Ian Staker. No, can't think of any.
We know you love the Fully Charged show, so why not come along to our global live shows in 2023 and 2024? The next shows are in the UK, specifically Farnborough and Harrogate, so get your tickets today.
So then, what in the marine mammals have we got here today? Well, welcome to the Aura Lightning Cat. Name subject to change. This is the second electric car to arrive in the UK from Aura, the first being the little funky cat. And this is a slightly different proposition, a big, swoopy, streamlined four-door family car. And just to clarify what I mean about the potential name change, rumour has it Aura is considering going to a numeric naming system for their vehicles, whereby Lightning Cat would become 07 and Funky Cat would become 03. Apparently they've deemed cats just too damn funky for UK customers. Here's the thing about the Chinese cars that we've seen so far in Europe and the UK. Mostly they've been targeting that entry-level area of the market, a criminally underserved area of the market, and doing very well as a result. This is China going toe-to-toe with European brands at the thing that they do very well. If you're going to build a big, fast, sleek, four-door saloon, you are immediately spitting in the face of your Porsches, your Mercedes, your Audis, your Bimmers. So, question of the day, does this big old purple boy have what it takes to go toe-to-toe? I don't know, let's have a look. Now, before we go around it and do the poking and prodding, I must be very clear that this is one of the more pre-production-y, pre-prod cars that I've been able to cover of late. Aura have really only brought this to the UK so that they can display it on our stand at Fully Charged Live at Farnborough later this week, which is really, really cool, but it's not finished yet, which is to say, we don't really know if any of this is going to make the UK spec cars. The wheels, the paint, all the little gizmos and gadgets inside, it's all TBC. It makes a lot of funny binging and bonging noises, which allegedly a lot of those won't appear on the UK cars. That's just something that Chinese cars are quite prone to doing. Does Aura have what it takes to even contemplate going toe-to-toe with the German old guard, who have been the masters of this type of car for so very long? That's what I'm interested in. Should we talk about the styling? I think let's. Not sure would be my summation, my first impression of the way it looks. Definitely better in the metal than in pictures. I do just find it's quite angle dependent. I think from the front on, it's a little bit troubling. There's this big mass of flat bonnet and all the kind of trimmy bits and details are pushed right out to the extremities. It makes it a little bit blobby. As you come around to the side, ooh, that's not bad. All of a sudden a bit sportier. Come around to the side, Porsche Panamera. Now that is a Gen 1 Porsche Panamera. Can you see this? Look at this. Look at this. Pause this. Google Gen 1 Porsche Panamera.
Okay. Porsche. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then round the back here, a little bit Bentley. It's definitely not a bad looking thing. Again, I do like it a lot more now that I'm stood next to it. And also at a time where everyone seems obsessed with making cars as angular and aggressive and angry as possible, I like that this is flowing and graceful. But it does look an awful lot like an early Panamera. And I have to pull it up on this because 10, 15 years ago, the Chinese car industry just made actual knockoffs of Western cars. And China's moved away from that. This industry has matured so much, so fast, and the products have gotten so much better. I thought the Aura Funky Cat was a nice looking thing. Yes, a little bit Porsche, yes, a little bit Beetle, but not too much of either. It was sort of its own thing. This, round the back, for me, unquestionably the best angle of this vehicle. You get the swoopy rear deck, you get these muscular haunches. I do like these rear brake lights. Cameraman Andy has highlighted that this particular piece here, a little bit reminiscent of the Aston Zagato. Was it the DBS, Andy? Oh, I'll allow that. That's a piece of copying that I am all for. And then back here we have a curious boot because it's absolutely huge, but with quite a small opening. So you can get very long, thin things in there in abundance. But anything a little thicker, you may struggle.
Perfect.
Now then, moving on to the interior of the Aura Lightning Cat, where things are a little bit more positive, I would say. Pros, I really like the general design of this cabin. I think this central piece is really, really pretty. I love the combination of the dark suede material, the sort of tan / orange leathery material, and then this metal effect piece in the middle. I don't think anything is actually what it looks like, but that's probably because most of it is vegan, which is good. Good view out. You sit a little bit higher than you do in something like the Porsche Taycan, for example, which is really low to the ground. I think some people will like that. If you are buying a big, powerful GT car, chances are you're not a young person and you might not want to have to, you know, do a yoga pose just to fold yourself into your car every time you want to go for a drive. User interface looks nice and simple. We've got big spinny dials here for our air conditioning. Something that a few people whinged about with the Aura Funky Cat was that a lot of the climate control stuff, too much of it was buried in the screen. Well, with this, if I twist this dial, I can tweak my temperature, and that actually brings up the climate control, which is pretty straightforward. I can direct my air like that, and that's all fine. No issues with that. I like these switches. I do like those. They're pleasing, they feel good, they look nice. This is fun. Look at this wireless phone charger. It's like a toaster for your phone. Ooh, and it actually works even on this pre-prod car. Now, the only downside to this is that you can't look at your phone while driving, but the upside is you shouldn't be looking at your phone while driving. So I imagine that's a deliberate safety feature, and I do approve of it. Something else I've just noticed, really lovely, thin, rimmed steering wheel. Feels really, really lovely to hold. That for me is quite reminiscent of older sports cars. I don't know why wheels got so big and fat these days, but I much prefer it this way. On the whole, looks nice, mostly feels nice. There's a few things that could do with being a little bit more tactile, but that may well be because this is a pre-prod car. But what I like is it's just got its own aesthetic in here. It really does look quite different to the interiors of some of its European rivals. Look, Andy, I got the whole way through this without even mentioning the fact that that is the gauge cluster and door handles from a 991 Porsche 911. Backseat jack test. Driver seat all the way back in my silly position. In we get, and I'll tell you what, I wasn't especially worried about rear legroom because it is quite a long car. You'd hope it would have space back here, but this is a pleasant surprise, except for these vents, which are completely different to the air conditioning vents in the front. Those are quite restrained. These look like sort of 50-cent spec Cadillac Escalade 22s. Yeah, that Robert is not going to have a clue what that means. Other than that, we've got a USB-C and a USB-A port back here for you retro types, which brings me nicely onto specs, none of which are confirmed yet, just to be very, very clear, but we expect that the first version of the Lightning Cat to arrive in the UK will be dual motor, four-wheel drive, 400 horsepower, 0 to 60 miles an hour in just over 4.5 seconds. That's really quick. That's a little bit quicker than a Polestar 2 Performance and about as quick as a Tesla Model 3 long range. Meanwhile, we're expecting an 83.5 kilowatt hour battery pack, which allegedly is going to be good for over 300 miles of range. That would equate to over 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. You'd hope it would be efficient given the big swoopy body, but I suppose with 400 horsepower to play with, that will very much be up to you, the driver, and your foot. I would mention at this point two gripes that Robert had with the Funky Cat that are certainly going to need to be addressed for this, its bigger brother, if it is to be any good at all. Number one, charging speed. I believe the Funky Cat was limited to 64 kilowatts, which is just inexcusable for a brand new electric car. I've only got a battery pack this size. That does actually mean you're going to be sat at chargers for quite a long time. The other is ride comfort and handling. The Funky Cat was just a little bit unsettled at all speeds and a little bit more rolly and SUV-y when you really chucked it around than you would perhaps hope. Now, again, big, quick GT car like this, I'm not expecting it to be super pointy, super focused, but you do want it to be effortless. You want it to be able to waft you along with you almost not realizing what's going on with the road surface underneath you. That feels like the suspension setup that would suit this car to me, and that would be a big upgrade from what we've seen from Aura so far, so fingers crossed. So, Aura Lightning Cat, or 07 as it may turn out to be. What do we reckon? What do we think from this very, very early look at this very, very pre-prod car? Well, clearly I have one or two reservations. One is with the generous amount of design language borrowing that has been done from a certain Porsche. The other is regarding fit and finish, handling and ride comfort, none of which we could possibly comment on just yet, but all of which will need to improve substantially over what we saw from the Funky Cat if this car is to nail the sort of brief that it's going for. But if it can do that, and if they can keep the pricing competitive, I think this represents a really interesting, unusual option. If you're at Fully Charged Live Farnborough this weekend, look forward to seeing it with your own very eyeballs and come say hello if you're there. But for the time being, please do make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have been, thanks for watching.